So I'm Sofia Villarreal, Program Manager of Global Sustainability in the Global Impact and Inclusion team. Very excited to present this amazing panelists. I'm sure you had interesting conversations at lunch, and I'm really hoping we're going to do some great exchanges to help each other to report better and not only report, but actually come up with solutions for climate change. So having said that, and because our 45-minute session is going to go quickly, I'm very excited to introduce this panel, which is Communicating Your Impact to Your Members and Community, a toolkit on accountability and transparency. Welcome Matthew Rusk, Head of Global Reporting Initiative of North America, as you probably know better, GRI. So you know GRI is an international nonprofit, and it's the most used framework all over the world. And it really fosters transparency, accountability, and for his role, Matthew focuses on partnerships and collaborations. Welcome, Matthew. And we're also very fortunate to have two great representatives from Brazil. So Danielle Teixeira here, Project Manager, or Fenasbac, I hope I pronounced that well. Fenasbac is part of the Brazilian Central Bank, and it's an organization that focuses on supporting credit unions and on their sustainability journeys. So we will learn much more about it. It focuses on recognition of credit unions' innovations and help focus on purpose. So I'm sure she'll mention later, Fenasbac focuses on providing recognition with the HESIPI, which are special awards for credit unions. Welcome. And on the screen right there, we have Daniela Lepinsk Romio. Welcome, Daniela. Daniela is a Sustainability and Cooperativism Manager at Sicredi, which is an award-winning credit union. She has more than 20 years of experience in sustainability and corporate communications, and she focuses mainly on energy distribution and reforestation industries. As you might know, she also focuses on ESG and in the Amazon region. Welcome. And last but not least, we have my colleague here, Layalee Ramahi from UNEP Finance Initiative, Regional Lead of North America. Layalee is based in New York, and her main task is to guide organizations to the UN Principles for Responsible Banking. As you might know, there are 6 principles, and they focus mainly on targeting the UN Sustainable Development Goals and actually helping to reach the Paris Climate Agreement. Welcome, Layalee. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Daniela, and I think it was great to go around the room, and Sofia gave us a very great introduction to our wonderful panelists, so great to be with you, and great to see signatories around the table as well. Just to say, as Sofia mentioned, at UNEP FI and the Principles for Responsible Banking, I think in the 6th principle, to set the stage, 2 main areas that we focus on when we talk about responsible and sustainable banking. Banking broadly, which includes banking as the larger corporations that people talk about, but also credit unions, which at their heart are focused on community and engaging with communities. So 2 main things that our panelists will drive us through. What we look at in terms of sustainable banking. At the core, we talk about impact. Identify your impact, measure your impact, and work towards improving your impact. And to guarantee that is how do you report on that impact and how do you integrate that internally and report it publicly to avoid greenwashing. I'm not the expert, I'm joined by the experts. And to set the stage, I'm gonna turn it over to Matthew. Matthew at the GRI, it is the world's most widely used sustainability standards. The standards are referenced broadly within over 500 policies globally. So what can you tell us about how GRI supports members and how you look at disclosure and the commitment to transparency globally and mainly in North America as well?
Very good. Well, thank you. Thanks for the kind introductions and for having me and GRI be a part of the discussion today. The slides I provided are a couple of reference points. So bear with me as well, just reference them through some of the conversation today. But if we can go to the next one, one more. Okay, so I'm not going to speak to this exactly right now, but in part of the kind of this setup, I'll reference this. So GRI is pleased to be around now for 27 years. Origin story out of Boston in response to the Exxon Valdez oil spill, when environmentalists and investors came together and said we need more transparency for organizations' activities so that their stakeholders can make more informed decisions in their interest and in the interest of sustainable development. So we provided guidance actually through the organization series to start, but spun out as its own organization and found a headquarters in Amsterdam, provided guidance through 2016, and then became a proper standard setter in 2016. And that was very much to try to bring about more consistency and comparability and credibility to impact and sustainability reporting. So we're really pleased to have the uptake that we have to date. We started maybe as the only kid on the block as it related to disclosures. Now we do have many different disclosure mechanisms, but we're adamant about collaborating with them and creating that global common language for impact and sustainability reporting, and bring those metrics together, really embedding a lot of things into our standards. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring up this image, because we do align with intergovernment authoritative instruments, also brings other mechanisms into our standards, greenhouse gas protocol embedded in our standards. Right, for those in the room, right below the seat, it may be hard to see, and actually may be helpful to go to the next slide for this one. But you can see that 5 constituency groups always involved with our standard setting process. So this is part of our attempt at having one global common language as it relates to what are different stakeholders interested in, as it relates to your impacts, and how can you speak to that. So at our board level and our technical committees and working groups, we always involve 5 constituency groups: civil society, business enterprise, investors, labor institutions, or organizations, and mediated institutions. Mediated institutions is a bit of our other category. Academia can fall into that. Other disclosure mechanisms like CDP that was involved with our biodiversity revision, and even governmental agencies like our German's environmental agency in our climate revision. So beyond our free public good that are our standards, we do provide resources to some of those members mentioned already. We have about 70 members in our community here in the US and Canada, where my focus is, and 500 globally. So with those members, we also provide additional resources. So that's through our community membership program. We provide opportunities for them to showcase some of their efforts in transparency and sustainability reporting, provide educational opportunities, be it webinars that we put on at GRI, or some in-person events we're getting back to after a pause in that since the pandemic. Also some peer learning and sharing network. We're here and talking a lot today about the importance of a network and learning from peers and working with peers, as well as our discounted free access to our GRI Academy Learning platform. So those are a few things that our members get access to, and to foster more learning and advance reporting. And a few other examples of that are during UN General Assembly and Climate Week. A few weeks ago, we brought our community members together with our technical committee working on our climate revision. So that was where our technical committees can really hear from some of the service providers and reporters, and also the members of our community can learn a little bit about the ongoings to bring about convergence in this space. So EFRAG, the standard setting body in Europe, also part of that workshop. So few examples. We also had a pilot for our biodiversity revision as early adopters of that standard, which goes into full effect next year. We wanted to help organizations tackle that newly after we had an existing standard from 2016. So I'll pause there for now, but excited for the rest of the conversation.
Well, thank you, Matt, for setting the stage. And I think you mentioned a key thing for us to take into this conversation in terms of how GRI has been setting the road for disclosure and for transparency, and in particular taking forward consistency, comparability, and how can we look at key metrics and key KPIs that we need to look at in terms of integrating within financial institutions to measure and track progress in terms of impact. And with that, probably I will go to Danny. Sicredi is truly advanced when it comes to sustainability. And in particular, I know that we talk a lot about having green solutions and advancing in terms of climate, environmental sustainability, but you also focus on financial inclusion and social purposes. So would love to hear from you in terms of what are the impacts that you are tracking and how are you thinking about this within the organization?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. Well, Sicredi is a confederation with more than 100 credit unions in Brazil. All of them are under the same brand, system, and macro policies, but they have some autonomy, representing every Brazilian state, including the entire Amazon region. We are just reaching now 8.5 million members and over 40,000 employees. It's important to say that Brazil has over 5,000 municipalities, towns, and in approximately 200 of these municipalities, we are the only financial institution physically present, because we care about financial inclusion that much, and we understand that in some small towns we need to be present. It's not only the digital, but we have to be there somehow, because it's what people trust most. And I also have to share with you how happy we are this week, because we are just awarded with as the best company to work in Brazil by GPTW. So we're really happy about that. And we think this means something, because if 40,000 people who works with us are happy to work together, I think we're getting our purpose. The purpose is to build a more prosperous society together. And there's something funny about the cooperatives, at least in Brazil. They often say that sustainability is already in the DNA of cooperativism. So, and I always say that that's not enough. It's not about being in our DNA. It's about, we need to measure, to monitor, to manage, and report what we are doing. We've been publishing GRI standards reports since 2012, and over the years we have evolved to include other standards, like some dimensions of SASB. This year we started with TCFD, and now we're preparing to dive in IFRS 1 and 2, because Brazilian Central Bank is probably extending its regulations, and we will be included, and probably like 2 years or something we will have to do IFRS. So we are also including those. But beyond that, we have our own sustainability disclosures, which aren't necessarily included in international standards, but are relevant for our impact assessment. So these disclosures are constantly reviewed. Today, we have 26 of them as a part of one internal sustainability maturity framework that we have, and another 35 are monitored monthly, and we have like 100 being prepared for future monitoring. Those metrics are distributed in 3 drivers: responsible solutions, local development, and relationship and cooperativism. And among these metrics are, for example, the percentage of GHG reduction in our units due to the use of sustainable energy sources. As we have invested heavily in solar energy, we can measure that. How are we reducing our GHG emissions using those sources? Another metric is the percentage of our credit portfolio that goes to green economy, according to the Brazilian regulation of what green economy means. That includes, for example, credit for women, entrepreneur women. Another metric is also about the percentage of our credit portfolio, the percentage that goes to low-income members, micro-entrepreneurs, and family farming also. And we have a strong financial education program as well, And the number of people who attend our courses along the year are also one of our metrics, as well as the percentage of our members who attend our annual meetings in cooperativism courses, because we understand that if we talk about cooperativism with our members, we may make them, know more and understand the local impact that we cause when we give credit to underserved regions, and they may choose us and make the cooperative stronger, their credit union stronger. So it's a very changing. They're always evolving, and it's really important for us to report all those kind of metrics. I'm not sure if I answered everything you asked.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm going to coin that sentence from you. It's not only enough for it to be in our DNA, right? We have to take preventative actions sometimes, and we do have to take corrective actions sometime. But maybe before I turn on to Daniela, can you just, Danny, tell us very quickly, as you are saying you've evolved with the maturity in terms of your thinking internally, with reporting on GRI, adding TCFD, tracking those metrics, can you just very quickly how your communication strategy around that has evolved in addition to maturing your reporting and transparency?
Well, we have established internally sustainability committees in our credit unions. So I think like 70 or 80% of them have their local sustainability committees. We have our sustainability framework is in a Power BI dashboard, and every employee can access it. We have a lot of internal courses about sustainability with everyone. And since last year, sustainability became officially part of our strategic plan for the next 2 years. So we finally got into the strategy. This is very important because if we're not in the strategy, our colleagues won't recognize our existence. So sometimes they don't see sustainability as part of the business. And as we say, we are the business together. So I think the greatest challenge was this, to communicate that internally. And one thing that we've done, it's been the second year for some of the credit unions of Sicredi that we adopted our sustainability maturity level rating as an indicator for variable remuneration. So if you want to have your variable remuneration, we have to be in the high levels in this rating. And of course, this has caught many people's attention. When we go to external communication to the society, we were much more careful. I think we actually tend to go a little bit in the greenwashing, not greenwashing. It's the opposite. We do a lot and we don't talk a lot because we're really careful with not to overrate our impacts and stuff. We have to learn a little bit more with that. Our report is audited by EY, so we have an independent auditor checking our sustainability reports every year. And we are really close to the market and communication sectors. So they're really careful with everything that they are communicating to the society. I think our big next challenge is to enhance this communication, with society, general society, not only in the reports.
Well, that is fantastic. Thank you very much. I know it's always heavy lifting for the teams internally and to continue to grow your strategy. And greenwashing is a problem, 100%. So, but thank you for that perspective. And I think with that, we're going to turn to Danielle for a broader perspective, from a broader association, broader view. In terms of your work with credit unions, can you tell us a bit more how you specifically work with credit unions in terms of supporting them on their communication as well?
Yeah, certainly. Is it working? Yeah, okay. First, thanks for having me here. Thanks for being here. So at Fenasbac, which is the Federation of Associations of Central Banks Employees in Brazil, we work with credit unions on many different levels, many different capabilities, and from open innovation programs to consulting to the Recipe, which is the program I'm going to talk about here. So with Recipe, the idea is that we bring a recognition for innovation with purpose, so that we can showcase what the credit unions have been doing internally that has an impact within their members, within their local communities, in terms of both the cooperative principles and also like ESG, green finance, the financial aspect of it. So I think we've been doing this for 3 years already, and we've been reaching a good audience. I think we've been engaging most of Brazil already. And I brought here one of the case studies that we had during this cycle that shows a little bit of one of the primary cooperatives, what they've been doing to make the impact within their community, which is related to recovering the river springs that were dying off in the region. So I think we should maybe play the video. There's no audio.
Operação de nascentes e esse bem maior que a água. Muito aliado aí às ODS, citando, por exemplo, a 3, que é saúde e bem-estar, e a 6, que é água potável e saneamento. Ela está atrelada ao negócio da cooperativa, porque a cooperativa foi formada por produtores rurais. Se nós cuidarmos da área ambiental, de segurança hídrica, nós estamos cuidando da própria economia, né, onde a cooperativa está inserida. 93 projetos desenvolvidos no ano de 2022, mais de 96 mil pessoas atingidas de forma direta e indireta, com destaque a nível nacional do nosso projeto Nascente Viva, mais de 40 nascentes recuperadas. Nós temos aí o objetivo de cuidar da questão da coleta seletiva, também a preocupação muito com os papéis que a gente utiliza hoje, né? Temos um projeto que a gente planta, né? A quantidade de árvores ali referente ao nosso consumo interno. Procuramos utilizar energias renováveis, né? E promovendo sempre essa questão da educação ambiental também.
Yeah, so that's just to show a little bit of the impact that one single primary cooperative credit union is having in Brazil. And so I think that many times actually, these credit unions, they don't show enough what they're doing to the outside public. But even internally, they don't know what they are doing themselves, because departments tend to not talk to each other. So what we're trying to do with the Recipe is bring this conversation. So we have like questions that make them think and make them have to talk to the other departments to see what's going on. And in that way, they usually find like opportunities that they've been missing to cooperate internally and to bring innovation and to make other projects possible. So I think that's just to start.
That's great, and I think it's very important that you shed the light in terms of how important it is to have the conversation internally as a team, specifically because you would get diverse views from the teams working on the front line opposed to teams working on the risk side, credit underwriting. It's a complete view from around the house. But in terms of, just to focus that and maybe bring you in, Matt, as well here, in terms of how would you foster and what educational resources do you have available to help trigger and support conversations within institutions that are starting to have these conversations, or maybe they're more advanced depending on where they are in their maturity and their journey? So anything you can tell us in terms of training, certifications, or anything you want to shed the light on?
Yeah, certainly. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, at Recipe we have a self-assessment questionnaire. That's 35 questions. They rate themselves 1 to 10. And if they give themselves a high rating, we ask for evidence so that they prove what they're doing and why they deserve that rating. So in terms of how to engage these people, we have a good team, and I have to bring Flavia, which is the one that's been spearheading this. They reach out to the credit unions. They try to support them each step of the way, and because it can be a little daunting to report, to know what to say, to know how to gather the evidence and everything. So we make sure that we are together with them. We're talking constantly with them, and so they can bring the right people to the conversation, understand really what's going on, and report that. And besides that, I think a big part of what we're doing with Recipe is that we provide them with a feedback report, each one of them. So not only the winners, not only the best ones, but each one of them. Everybody who applies, who goes through the whole process, gets a feedback report tailored specifically for their needs and for their answers. And with that report, we hope to shed some light on areas for improvement and also recognize what they're doing well, what they have to keep going, continuing. And I think the idea is that with that, we can help engage even the credit unions that are not quite there yet, because with that, they have the opportunity to receive that feedback and know how to improve. And hope that with time, from each cycle to the next, they can improve and we can keep tracking their progress within the 5 criteria.
Yeah, and we recognize that, actually really applaud that sustainability is getting more and more embedded into business, whether it's DNA that you need to, from the start, but also need to make sure you're attending to it day in, day out. A lot of different disciplines are coming into the fold for both embedding sustainability in the organization as well as disclosure. And it is important for those internal conversations to really foster dialogues from cross-functional teams. So one of the slides we do have, if we can pull it up, we do have GRI Academy courses. Like I mentioned, our community gets access to this. Maybe the slide before there. So just to give you a taste, you asked about certifications. So this professional certification has 4 courses to help folks upskill. And what's great about this is we see this being done by some folks early in their career that want to get into this space, or those that come from a different discipline but want a baseline knowledge and credential to help with this reporting process. And then we have courses, and it'll make sense when we talk about our standards and the ways to use the standards in a moment, but that cover the general landscape, like Transparency for Tomorrow, decoding the sustainability reporting landscape. So this is beyond the 4 courses for the credential, but just one that, it talks about the GRI standards. It also talks about some other disclosure mechanisms like reporting to the UN Global Compact, the communication on progress, so on and so forth. So it really takes, where some of our courses were really GRI focused, we now open up that aperture to really talk about all the different things. The SEC is mentioned in that. We updated that just maybe 6 weeks ago to make sure we're capturing everything that's as current as possible. You may be familiar with the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive out of Europe. GRI was pleased to be a co-constructor with some of those standards, particularly on the impact disclosure side. So we have unlocking the European Sustainability Reporting Standards for GRI reporters, as well as even expanding into ESRS, or European Sustainability Reporting Standards, specific courses, and we're developing a professional certification on that as well. So the first 2 courses on that are already available, 4 to come. And then we have particular topics that can really help organizations, whether it's a focus on biodiversity or tax transparency. There's also a course where it was mentioned, these reports more and more commonly are getting assured to make that information credible. So we have an assurance course to help people get acclimated to what that process looks like for them. So that's where we find some key components to education. Like I mentioned, we have some webinars and reporting and practice seminars for our members that are virtual, about 5 a year for our members. And then whenever we come out with a new revision, I've cited a couple of times about some of our revision work or a new standard, we'll have not only a public comment period to help develop those standards, but also when they're released, some webinars to kind of get our constituency groups and stakeholders acclimated to that new standard. So look for those webinars and some tools that get rolled out. And I'm pleased to say that our next sector standards that are going to be up for public comment are our financial sector standards, of which banking, insurance, and capital markets are a part, and that'll cover credit unions. And we're happy to have Van City actually on the technical committee that's helping to develop that. So we'll have a public comment period, and we'll welcome feedback from all different constituency groups, including the credit unions themselves. So excited to bring about education along with some of those opportunities for feedback.
Well, it's great to hear from both of you that resources and focus is available for credit unions that are looking to advance in their reporting and in their transparency. But maybe I'll just tick it up a notch for Danny and Danielle, just to be very honest about what we hear from financial institutions. We are spending more money, more time on reporting than we are on actually doing financing. We have 2 hands, some sustainability teams, and when you expand beyond, resources are an issue financially and also in terms of available folks that are hired in terms of teams. So those are some of the challenges. So how are you going about it? And can you give us some of your experience in terms of how folks are addressing it with limited capacity? Maybe I'll go online first, and I'll go to you, Danny.
Is that actually a challenge for everyone? Because I thought it was just us. Well, one of the most important things I think it's for us was to make it clear there's no single area responsible for the institution's sustainability. We coordinate, we systematize, we fill out reports, we bring insights, measure impacts, ensure results, but sustainability is everyone's responsibility. And that includes optimizing costs and resources without compromising our positive impacts. I can't believe that we will spend more money reporting. I don't think that's even possible, because we can make the reports maybe simpler. We can search for intercooperation and understand how other credit unions are doing it. We may do that in only the digital reports without printing it. We may take those courses and maybe not to need to hire someone external to write reports. I think we should be really realistic when it comes to reporting. Reporting is important, really important, is essential. But it doesn't make much sense, when you want to report more than you were doing. So I think we should. I could quote Lewis Carroll from Alice in Wonderland. He says, begin in the beginning and go on till you come to the end, then stop. Except that we never stop, because there seems to be no end to the reports and forms to fill out. But we have to be realistic and keep it in the size of our credit unions. It depends on what you're doing and how big you are. And we can always try intercooperation. I think if resources for reporting are an issue, we could find solutions with our partners.
Yeah, I totally agree with Daniela. I think the thing here is like, we shouldn't have to report just for the sake of reporting. What does that mean? You know, like, what are we bringing? What value are we bringing back once we find out what we're finding out with the reports? So I agree that we have to keep it simple as possible. For us, because we're talking to primary credit unions, they're many times very tiny, and so we try to restrict it to just 35 questions, a little bit broader, you know, to get conversation going. But we understand that in their case, they're not quite there yet. They don't have the capability. Sometimes they don't even have the data to report in a very detailed level. So I think it's very important to connect the questions to the action afterwards. You know, what can we do? What can we do after this? So if we find that we're not financing the right projects, then okay, let's finance the right projects. What do we have to do from now on? And make it the heart of everything we do, because once people realize the impact, the real impact, and the action afterwards, and the value it brings, I think it's easier for them to want to do it, and not push it to one area that has to deal with it.
Well, that's, I think taking on, oh, yes, I hear you coming in. Sorry.
It's really important what Danielle brings, because if we start reporting, even if it's the most simple report, we start to see the gaps. And when you see those gaps, you know, we start taking action to fix those gaps. So the reports have to be a tool for management, a tool for strategic. Because if they're only to be published, they would be useless. So start as simple as you can. And it's really important for us, for example, to have an institution like Fenasbac, because their forms are exactly how Danielle says. They're simple and they're easy to fill for credit unions of any size. You know, from this, since the smaller ones to the biggest ones.
This mic gets annoying sometimes. Sorry. You're raising a very, very important point. First of all, in terms of how important it is to report, but also reporting is not a linear approach. You don't just do the work and just put it out. It's a strategic circular model where you put out this information to understand what it means, take it back into management and assess where you need to make the changes and how it drives your strategy and policy. But with that, Matt, maybe you can give us a bit of an overview in terms of what you're seeing from the receiving end, in terms of how you assess the reporting landscape itself, what developments there are, and how do you see credit unions if in terms of their reporting and transparency?
Yeah, we have another slide that kind of also paints the picture of the reporting landscape. But we certainly see, so firstly, let me say, yeah, reporting for reporting's sake, or reporting is a means to better performance, better understanding, seeing those gaps. So even as a standard setter that can be quite comprehensive with our 32 topic standards and whatnot, we want this all to be in service of improved environmental, social, and economic performance. And that's also one of the key reasons why we keep collaborating with other disclosure mechanisms to make sure those great questionnaires really align nicely with other standards, right? And so it's not different questions from all different angles and just bogs an organization down where the more resources go out the door on reporting than they do to improve performance. When it comes to the landscape, so the GRI standards are a module setup, first of all. So starting simple, taking that cue, right? You can make with reference report that just plucks out certain topic standards. And organizations in this room are using that stepping stone to report on biodiversity, report on diversity, equity, and inclusion related items, and using it in a module system that they can evolve their practice. When you report in accordance, you go through the universal standards, materiality assessment, and then that points to your likely or actual material topics of greatest impact, and you report on those. So check out, I want to be mindful of time here, GRI 1 has no disclosures. It just paints that picture of how to use the GRI standards, and in two different ways. So in accordance and with reference to reporting. So feel free to check that out or get in touch with me, because there's even a way when you report in accordance, it modulates up or down depending upon the size of your organization to make it an endeavor that's worthwhile. When we talk about the landscape, there's one other slide that I'll just put up here if we can. It was probably the first one, just to make the order confusing. But when we see kind of the trends and how we're seeing the global landscape of reporting shape up, we're seeing two perspectives or pillars, and also seeing via Europe this term double materiality get here to stay on the landscape. GRI sits in this impact pillar. We focus on that large spectrum of stakeholders represented in that process of making the standards, like I mentioned before, but we are here to serve and speak to impacts and serve the interest of a broad spectrum of stakeholders. This pillar one, if you will, of strengthened financial reporters, really serving capital markets and has that outside-in lens approach. How does sustainable development affect the business rather than how does the business or entity impact the outside world? So we're pleased to sit on this impact side and pleased to be collaborating across the spectrum here. We think that's pertinent to making reporting helpful in decision making and not just an exercise that is resource intensive or not useful to both internal stakeholders as well as external.
Well, thank you for that. I think double materiality is close to my heart and measuring impact, but I think I'm very mindful of time, and I want to leave some time for the audience to get the opportunity to use this very confusing mic. And just, I'm going to go with a very quick 2 rounds of questions for all of my panelists. We talked about greenwashing. I think both can be sometimes 2 faces to one coin, but I would love to hear your thoughts about how organizations can feel more confident in their reporting. At the PRB, I think one of the main statistics that I love to quote is that from the signatories that are over 350, depending on size, geography, all over the world, 97% have oversight for governance bodies, 91% at the CEO level. So that tells you about how sustainability internally is very important. So I would love to hear your thoughts very quickly. This is a lightning round in terms of what advice do you have for organizations to feel confident about their reporting. And I'll start with you, Danielle.
Very quick, as in
very
one
quick,
word.
Lightning round. You run with it so I can squeeze in another question.
Communication. I mean, you cannot be confident in reporting if you don't ask the right questions and if you don't have enough data. So I really think, I'm going to bring this again, I really think departments have to work together. They have to share knowledge, they have to be transparent, and they have to have a very systemic perspective on what they're doing and how they're reporting.
Matt, we're going to go with you.
Absolutely. Embed the reporting process throughout your organization with subject matter experts and data owners, and get a system in place where they're all involved and where that process is assurable, because that'll bring more credibility to that information as well.
And we're going to go, last but not least, I think your thoughts are now treasure, since you are the practitioner in the room. So let us know, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we should be more generous to ourselves, and We don't have to be perfect. We don't need to wait until we're perfect to do so, to report. So start with what you do best. Look at your credit union and report what you do best. And also use the famous report or explain concept, because you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be giant, and your report doesn't have to be a huge document. So don't wait until you are perfect and do intercooperation. Talk to other credit unions, read their reports, see what they are doing and saying, and learn with each other.
And as I promised you all, we have fantastic panelists that are ready and eager to your very tough questions. So I would like to open the floor for any questions for our audience, from our audience to our panelists. And if you want to address them to someone, just you can click the speak button. I will see your red mic just to give you another chance to enjoy this very fantastic microphone system. So please, any questions, or else I will go for questions to my panelists. Yes, please.
No, thank you so much. Again, Ima at UNFCU. I guess part of my question is we are always thinking about, we understand the standards, we understand the growing pains of getting to those standards and the necessity of reporting. And it's also true that as a credit union movement, we sometimes feel like some of these standards aren't necessarily cultivated with us in mind. So I'm just curious whether, sort of maybe both you, Layalee, and you, Matt, can talk about the ways that we potentially can shape, influence, maybe too strong of a word, these standards to kind of meet where we are as a credit union movement. Thanks.
Technical committees working on the financial sector standards that'll have that public comment period next year and roll out the following. We do have credit unions represented in that group. So I think that's a key component to that. And then we do have a 90-day public comment period that I'll be happy to make sure all involved with this great event are aware of to provide that feedback, because we have those different constituency groups to make sure they're usable for the entities and then helpful to those data users that are going to ask or be interested in data from those entities. So hopefully we get it right with that, and we'll continue to collaborate to also align with other mechanisms that you may be already reporting to or interested in doing so. I neglected to say some of the collaborations we have around reporting on contributions to the SDGs, which clearly would be important to this room as well.
And from my side, I will add to that very quickly. I think you raise a very important point, and I think the voice of credit unions, not for anything less of how they are impacting in terms of their financing, but how they are impacted, in particular when it comes to size. In particular, if we're talking about climate-related risks, we're talking about concentration of risk within your loan books, we're talking about stranded communities, we're talking about social impact broadly. But there is an important point, not to change or unburden from reporting, but at least to have a voice from the credit union. What is the bare minimum in terms of what are the bare minimum areas that we need to report on, how we can integrate that, and how we can share that voice? Because at the end of the day, if we are leaving credit unions out of that discussion, we are leaving a very important aspect of the financial system that works with frontline communities in most cases. And that means we are broadly increasing the risk for the financial system. Having credit unions represented by organizations, by WOCU, by talking to regulators is very important as a very major stakeholder, and also in collaboration with broader financial institutions. Being a credit union is not any different from being a bank. The way you underwrite, the way you are exposed to risk, in most cases, different regulator, most definitely same process. So definitely a voice and I would say advocacy for at least minimum safeguards are required.
Can I answer that real quick?
Yes, please.
Just one thing that we've been doing, maybe it's something that brings opportunities, is we have a consulting board within Recife that's made of specialists and members of the credit unions. So they help shape the questions and they help us evolve the program itself. So I think that's something, a real example of how we can bring the people to work together.
I'm happy to say that for the first time, I managed to finish a panel on time. So we're getting you back to a UN timely schedule. I wish I could say we've had enough from our great panelists, what we did not. I would ask you to join me to thank them for this very fantastic panel. You can find them in the hallways and ask them more questions. Thank you again, and it was great to moderate this panel with you.
Thank you all very much.